Hi everyone, happy Sunday. Welcome back to Clues by Sam. We have another hard one today. I was hoping for an evil one, but the hard is just as nice. And if you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it is a daily logic puzzle game where there are 20 people. Each of them must be either a criminal or an innocent, and we go from the first clue to the ones that each person might give you to help you figure out what they are, and the puzzle changes in difficulty along the week. So today's is this hard one. If you want to play as well, there is a link in the description to take you to the daily one, and I usually go in the next day and leave the links for the previous ones in the descriptions of those videos. So you're welcome to try, and I'm gonna explain my logic as I start my game here right now. Let's go. We start with Tina telling us that exactly 2 of the 4 criminals in column C are Linda's neighbors. So Linda is in column C and she has 2 people neighboring her in that same column. 2 of those are criminals, so that means that both of them are criminals. And there's 4 criminals in column C total, so 2 more. We don't dismiss that clue yet. Helen now says that only one of the 2 criminals in row 3 is Karen's neighbor. So same as Linda, Karen is in row 3 and she has 2 people neighboring her in that same row. One of those is a criminal, the other one is an innocent, and there's one more criminal in that row, which means that Karen herself or Maria are the second criminal, so we have 2 pairs of opposites here. Steve says that exactly 2 of the 5 criminals neighboring Petra are in column C, so where's Petra? Petra is not in column C, but she has 3 people neighboring her in column C. One of them is already a criminal, and from the other 2, one more has to be a criminal to total 2 neighboring Petra. So now we know that out of the 4 criminals that are in column C, 3 of them are Helen, Steve, and somebody else who's either Linda or Xavi, which means that to have a 4th one, we need Chris to be a criminal as well in that column. Now Chris says that Petra is one of Steve's 5 criminal neighbors. So Petra is a criminal too, and Steve has 2 so far. So Petra, either Karen or Maria. Oh, he has a 3rd one as well, who's either Linda or Xavi. So we need 2 more. Who are those 2 gonna be? They have to be Vince and Ziad, right? To total 5 people neighboring Steve who are criminals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means that Vince and Ziad both are. Is it Ziad? Zayed? Ziad? Both of these guys are criminals, and we don't need Chris's clue anymore. Now Vince says that there are more instances in column A than column B. We don't know how many are there in column B, so we don't know how many there could be in column A. And Ziad says that only one row has exactly 2 instances, and that row is row 3. So what does that mean? It means that row 4 couldn't have 2, so Olive, the last person in that row, couldn't be an instant because that will make the row have 2. So Olive is a criminal, and now Olive says that she hates getting caught. Too bad, too bad. Shouldn't have come today then. What else do we know now? Any other columns or rows? I guess we know that row 5 couldn't have 2 instances, but we don't know if it does have any. So where do I look? Where do I look? I do need to see its clue because it might come up later. Vance is talking about column A and column B, but I don't know about any instance in column B. 5 criminals neighboring Petra total. So how many criminals does Petra have already? 1, 2, 3. She's gonna have a 4th one who's either Jane or Linda, and her 5th one, because Linda is shared with Jane and Xavi. We don't know. But we know that Petra does have 5 criminal neighbors total. Oh, have we read her clue? Brian and Karen have only 1 instant common neighbor. Brian and Karen. They have 3 people who are neighboring them in common. And one of those is innocent. So from the two left, either Frank or Gabe are an innocent. So now we know that row 2 has one innocent here, which means that the last person in that row, who's Ivan, couldn't be an innocent as well. Otherwise, that row would have two innocents too. And it can't, because row 3 is the only row with two innocents. Ivan is a criminal then. Guess I don't need Petra's clue anymore. Ivan says that each row has at least two criminals. So how do we know who's the criminal in the second criminal in row 1? Four criminals in column C total. I guess I don't need that clue anymore. Only one row has exactly two innocents. I just know that row 1 has to have a second criminal. And there's also the thing about column A and B, but still, no innocents there. 3 criminals in row 3. What? Only one of the 2 criminals in row 3, read it wrong, is Karen's neighbor. So that's okay. More instances in column A than B. Is that the thing that I gotta look at? 5 criminals neighboring Petra. Do we have to act on that considering columns A and B? Because if Linda is an innocent, she will make both Xavi and Jane criminals. And now that's Petra's 5 criminals total that Steve's talking about. Which would make Uma and Karen innocents. So then Maria will be a criminal. In this scenario, column B and column A have the same number of innocents so far. But column B has to have less innocents than column A, which means that column A would need one more innocent, but it could have. If it were the opposite, let's start from Linda again. If Linda were a criminal, that would make both Xavi and Jane innocents. And I dismissed Vince's clue, but I'm not gonna leave it dismissed. And now Karen and Uma are opposites for Petra because she needs one more criminal neighboring her. So, in this scenario, gotta remember that the pinks are not final. But in this scenario, I don't think this is what I have to be looking at. Karen and Uma being configured as so Karen being an innocent would put column A and column B in the same situation as before, having the same number of innocents. So that's why I don't think that's the case. Now we put this back. And go through the clues again. Steve has 5 criminal neighbors, which we know are gonna be for sure here. Only one of the 2 criminals neighboring. 2 criminals in row 3 is Karen's neighbor. So Karen is here, and of course she's gonna have a criminal neighboring her in that same row. Each row has at least 2 criminals. I mean, it could be Ellie, the second criminal in row 1. Every other row already has 2 criminals. Brian and Karen have only one innocent neighbor in common. And that's okay. 2 of the 5 criminals neighboring Petra. Am I supposed to know something about Uma? 4 criminals in column C. Yeah. There are more instances in column A than column B. I think this is what I have to look at, but I'm not sure how. Exactly one row has exactly 2 instances. So the thing is, each row has at least 2 criminals, which means that row 1 has to have one more criminal. But if it only has one more criminal, let's say that's Brian, then it has the same number as row 3, which is the only row with 2 criminals only. So that doesn't work. It needs one more criminal. And if that person is Adam, which they could be, because Frank and Gabe are gonna allow us to put one more innocent in column A than column B at any time. I guess, are we trying to prove that Brian is not an innocent? Because if Brian is an innocent, what happens then? Both Adam and Ellie are criminals? And in that case, I think we are either trying to prove that Adam is always a criminal or that Brian is always a criminal. Sorry, I think we're trying to prove that Adam is always an innocent or that Brian is always a criminal. But I don't know what yet. Why? So we go back to Linda, do we? If Linda is a criminal, if Linda is an innocent, that puts Jane and Xavier as criminals. And that makes Petra have no more criminals neighboring her. So that's 5. So now Uma and Karen are both innocents. And in this scenario, yeah, if Gabe is a criminal, Frank could be an innocent. And now, is there a way for column A to have more innocents than column B? It already does. Unless Brian is an innocent and Adam is a criminal. Now both columns have the same number, but if Adam is an innocent and Brian a criminal, then that works. What about the opposite scenario? If Linda... I don't think that's what I should be doing. I'm so confused. If Linda is a criminal and Jane an innocent, Uma and Karen are opposites. And making Karen an innocent and Uma a criminal doesn't work for us. Or does it? Well, now each column has the same number of innocents, so that does work. If Frank is an innocent and Gabe is a criminal, that makes column A have more criminals. Column A have more innocents than column B. I'm so lost. And if Adam is a criminal and Brian an innocent, but I think I'm going too many steps ahead of what I should be doing. So I'm not trusting myself here. I don't think I'm doing this right. I'm gonna go through the clues once more. So I'm just gonna dismiss them. So we can dismiss as we go. Chris says that Petra is one of Steve's 5 criminal neighbors. Steve has 3 criminal neighbors so far, and he is gonna have one more here, so that's 4 and 5 with these 2. So it is completely safe. Helen says that only one of the 2 criminals in row 3 is Karen's neighbor. Yeah, but she could be a criminal as well, so I think we should look at Petra and Steve. I'm being stupid. If Petra is an innocent, that makes Xavier and Jane both criminals. And now Petra doesn't have any more criminal neighbors because she has 5 total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? That's what Steve says. 5 criminals neighboring Petra. So that makes Karen and Uma both innocents. And Karen being innocent makes Maria a criminal. Now Steve has 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that works as well. Maybe that's not what I have to be looking at, but I'm gonna test both scenarios anyway. Linda being a criminal makes Xavier an innocent, and Jane an innocent. Now Petra needs one more criminal neighboring her. And Steve has 1, 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't matter for Steve how many criminals Petra has. Because if Karen is a criminal and Uma is an innocent, that makes Maria an innocent. And Steve has his 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Petra has her 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that works. Just because I said that I was hoping for an evil one, now I'm suffering. And if I change Karen and Uma and Maria, same thing happens for both of them. Petra has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Steve has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that works for both of them. Back to the clues. Each row has at least 2 criminals. Which means that row 1 has 2 more. I guess we know. We don't know, actually, that Adam and Brian both are criminals. We just know that they're not both innocents. But they could both be criminals, and that would work for column A and column B. All because of Frank and Gabe. All because of Frank and Gabe. Yeah. So Brian and Karen have only one innocent neighbor in common, which is either Frank or Gabe. 2 of the 5 criminals neighboring Petra are in column C. One of them is Steve. The other one is either gonna be Linda or Xavier. So many tags. 4 criminals in column C are 2 of them are Linda's neighbors, so they are already here, and there's gonna be one more in column C. So I don't need that clue. More instances in column A and column B is the thing that's breaking me. Only one row has exactly 2 instances. Ah. Or not ah. We couldn't have, but we won't have. Row 5 have 2 instances. If Linda is a criminal, she will make Xavier and Jane innocents. And now Uma couldn't be an innocent. That will break So that would force Uma to be a criminal and Karen to be an innocent. Which is okay because of Frank and Gabe. If Linda, on the other hand, were innocent, that will force Jane and Xavier. I'm doing so well today. If Linda were an innocent, that will make Jane and Xavier both criminals, which solves. So we know that Uma is always a criminal. Is that what's happening? Criminal. Innocent. If Linda is a criminal, both Xavier and Jane are innocent, which makes Uma a criminal because of the more than two criminals rule. Right? If Linda is a criminal, Uma is a criminal. If Linda is an innocent, that makes Xavier and Jane criminals and forces Uma to be an innocent. And then Karen would be an innocent as well. But in the other scenario, Linda being... Oh, I'm so sorry if this is very confusing to you. I can assure you it is very confusing to me. So, Linda being a criminal forces Jane and Xavier to be innocent, which forces Uma to be a criminal, which forces Karen to be an innocent. So Karen is always an innocent is what we're looking at, I think. That's where I was trying to get. Because now Petra has her 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we switch this up, Linda being an innocent forces Xavier and Jane to be criminals, which completes Petra and forces everybody else to be innocent, including Karen. So Karen is always an innocent. How did that take me so long? Karen being innocent makes Maria a criminal. So long. There's an odd number of criminals on the edges. These guys are still opposites. Not number of criminals on the edges. So we know we have 3 criminals here in row 1. And everybody in row 1 is on the edges. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we would need... We would need... So that's 8, that's not an odd number, okay? We would need one more person. Do we know that Uma and Xavier are opposites? I guess so. Because Petra has 1, 2, 3 people here neighboring her who are criminals. She's gonna have, for sure, a 4th one who's either Jane or Linda. So the 5th one is either Uma or Xavier. So I guess it's better for me to oppose Uma and Xavier in this case. Because now we know that we have 3 criminals here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with Uma or Xavier. So we couldn't have Frank and Jane be different. And if both of them are criminals, then column B has more innocence than column A, which can't be. Or could it be? 1, 2, 1. Yeah, it couldn't be. So Frank and Jane are both innocents. Is that a path? I have to take? Is that a path I have to take? Or do I have to look at Adam and Brian? Because I'm fairly sure this is correct. If this is correct. Which I know is correct, I just counted. But I'm never trusting myself with math. Should we check Brian? Let's try to make Brian an instant. And if Brian is an instant, I don't wanna abandon my tags here. Brian is an instant. Now column B has 2 instants, which means that column A needs more than 2. Is there a way it could have more than 2? Considering that Jane and Uma are... If we make Linda an instant, Xavi is a criminal, which makes Uma an instant. So Jane and Uma are always opposites, right? If Linda is a criminal, Jane and Xavi are instants, and Uma is a criminal. So Jane and Uma are always opposites. So that's 1 instant only here, which would make Frank and Adam the other 2 possibilities. So we know that column A so far only has 1 instant, and column B already has 1 as well. Frank being a criminal and Gabe an instant would force Brian to be a criminal and Adam an instant. Can this work? And if this works, column A has more instants than column B. It has 3, column B has 2. Oh no, it doesn't have 3. Adam and Jane are the only instance in column A, and column B has 2 as well, so that's the same. So it doesn't work. Frank couldn't be a criminal, even if Adam is an instant. Oops. See, that's why I don't trust myself, because I was pretty sure of my logic there, but I guess it wasn't logic-y enough. And I want you to tell me where I'm wrong in this calculation. Considering that these guys are opposites, right? And these guys are opposites. But now I know that I shouldn't go for Jane next, which is one of the issues of getting the answer right when you do the guess. Yes. That's why I don't like it, that the game tells you you're wrong. Let me find out that I'm wrong on my own. But anyway, I know that I shouldn't be looking at Jane, but I know there's gonna be a second instant here. I just know that Brian couldn't be an instant. Because if Brian is an instant, then both of these columns have the same number of instants. So Brian has to be a criminal. But that's not something that I wanted to do. And I'm not gonna go into the merit of the game is not allowing me to do something that I'm sure of, because I'm sure of it, but I'm probably sure of something that's wrong and that somebody else could point out to me where it is wrong because they see it differently or they see more scenarios that I do in my head, so that's why I'm trying to look somewhere else. And that's why I want you to tell me if you know where I'm going wrong here. Brian now says there are more criminals in column C than column D. There's 4 criminals in column C, so column D couldn't have 4. Which means that the 3 that are already in column D are the 3 that are there in total. Ellie is an innocent then, and Ellie being an innocent makes Adam a criminal because we need 3 criminals in row 1. And now we know that column A is for sure gonna have more innocents than column B, so we don't need that clue anymore. Each row has at least 2 criminals, we don't need that either. 2 criminals in row 3 is Karen's neighbor, don't need that. Steve's 5 criminal neighbors, don't need that. Now we go for the odd number of criminals on the edges, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we make Uma a criminal, that will make Jane and Xavier innocents, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is an even number, and making Uma an innocent will make these 2 guys criminals, so that would make 10, and 10 is an even number. So that's something we shouldn't do. Where's the odd number of criminals on the edges here? Uma has to be a criminal then, which makes Jane an innocent, Xavier an innocent, and Linda a criminal. Yeah. Wow, half an hour. I'm not gonna dwell on what I got wrong there. Maybe it'll pop into my head later in the day, but it is what it is. It makes me a little sad because I was right. I just don't see where the hole in my logic was. If you could tell me, I would appreciate that. I love learning and I love having discussions and knowing about different ways we can get to the same result. So don't be afraid to tell me stuff and to point out where my logic is flawed. It helps us grow. Not only me, but everybody that's reading the comments or watching as well. So it's encouraged. And I'll leave it here for today. I'll see you tomorrow for more Clues by Sam. Hope you appreciated the video as well. Thank you. Bye bye.